What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Lights Out F1 podcast. I'm Patrick. That's Claire. That's Jakob. It's Silverstone today. Uh, awesome race. Uh, Before you freak out about it, just give me your rating on it, Claire.
1,010.
All right, Jakob.
It's a solid 8, 9 out of 10.
All right. Um, let's
Dude,
dive into.
give every race weekend an 8 out of
That's
10.
true. Well, no, I think
Fine.
you
Lewis
gave. I
Hamilton
think you
was on
gave
the
Austria a
podium.
really low weekend
And
as well.
it's
So,
No, yeah, Austria, I gave the sprint a high rating. The race
um,
itself was pretty low.
but first, let's talk about qualifying because I feel like there was a lot that went on there. Let's talk about Q1 first. We had both of our AlphaTauris knocked out, both of our Alfa Romeos. No, one of our Haas's, one of our Alfa Romeos, and then Sergio Perez got knocked out in Q1. So, what are you guys' thoughts on Sergio right now? He's missed out on 4 consecutive Q3 appearances.
is it now 5 or was
That's
that
4.
the 4th? Oh man. That man is not living up to hype. He is making me look silly right now. He's making all of us look, except for probably Jakob, look silly right now. He's not going to be challenging for the championship at all this season. Probably not next season. Big disappointment, especially in the car that he's in. So,
Mhm.
I mean, get out of Q1, please, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, give your thoughts.
And so much for getting his act together after last weekend. I think if he gets his qualifying act together, the race pace is still there, right? He climbed all the way on the
Yeah.
P8, P9 today. So the race pace is clearly there, despite finishing lower than he should. But yeah, they'll probably keep him to the end of the season. I don't know who. We'll see what happens with. I think Daniel Ricciardo is doing a tire test for Red Bull sometime this week, or next week. So we'll see how that goes. But I think they'll keep him till the end of the season. He just needs to get his quality act together because that Red Bull car on regular pace can stay at the front even if he's driving it badly.
Yeah. Q2 we saw. Um,
Wait, question.
Yeah.
Patrick, how do you feel about it? Checo's one of your favorite drivers.
That's
How do you
true.
feel about this
I don't know. It's
performance?
not surprising. There's no way he's just gonna take like a one-off bounce back in form and say, that's it. Um, and quite frankly, I don't think like Red Bull gave him everything he needed. So at this point, it's not even a case of, he has a separate chassis from Max. That's how dedicated Red Bull have been to giving him what he needs, and he still can't work with the car. I think this one can be down to a bit of bad luck because he was the first person out of the queue during Q1, which means that he got
But the Williams somehow
well, so
No,
right
no, but
after him.
also
him
like
being the first out of the
yes,
queue because he didn't get any of the track evolution where everybody who went after him got 16 or 17 cars worth of rubbering in where he was basically on fresh tarmac. So I don't.
no, I can.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but that's also down to him just not setting a fast.
Yeah.
He set the lap time and then he tumbled down the order and he'd set it again.
Yep.
And that's on. And also sitting outside the pit lane at the end of the pit lane for 9 minutes didn't
Yep.
help. So
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, not super shocked. It sucks. It should have been at least Q2. I mean, the fact that Bottas finished out qualifying in front of him is sad because the Alfa Romeo sucks. But Q2, we got Logan Sargent to finally get out of Q1. So that was the highlight of Q2. I don't think there were any surprises. I mean, I think
The McLarens.
I'm getting there. There weren't any surprises in Q2, outside of Logan actually making it into Q2. But I think most of our shot came in Q3, which Claire can't get over. Both her McLarens coming in second and third. Jakob's Mercedes coming in 6 and 7. The Ferraris coming in 4 and 5. Max, of course, coming in first. Alex 8. Fernando Alonso 9. And who got 10? I want to say it was an Alpine.
Was it Pierre Gasly?
Yeah, I think so.
Or yeah.
But yeah, Q3. I mean, spectacular qualifying by everybody. British fans definitely got a treat out of that, watching their drivers keep on. And it wasn't just Lando. At one point, I think Lewis was also sitting on provisional pole for a very short period of time. So watching the British drivers actually putting in some good qualifying performances, I think was good for the fans, probably good for Jakob. So what are you guys' thoughts on Q3? Because it was exhilarating.
That was amazing. It was down to like the last lap, right? So I, for 3 seconds, thought that Lando had it because I thought Max couldn't eke it out. And I went back and I watched, like, you know, how they do the ghost, like, lap comparisons. Probably like Formula Addict or something like that had that. And I was like, man, Lando had him in the corners. It's those darn straights. The Red Bull is so quick. It's insane. But, I mean, for the McLaren to be even like 3/10 off Max in the Red Bull, it's like, it just made my day. I've been so happy this weekend.
Jakob?
I think that it was a good Q3, obviously, with Lando having provisional pole for like less than a second. And Max aced that final sector. It was great. He pulled out like 3/10 in the final sector alone, I think.
Oh yeah.
Um,
He actually, so Max didn't set any purple sectors on his last lap.
yeah, no, his final sector was his purple sector for the
Yeah,
last
he
lap.
was faster in his first sector, slower in his second sector. He literally pulled
Yeah,
out everything in the third sector.
which is, it's a credit. Like he tends to do that. Like, I think there's been a couple quality laps where he pulls everything out in the
Yeah,
final sector,
Monaco.
and that's clear. Yeah, he
Yeah.
just the 3/10 wall riding, that was crazy. But
Well, it's like he learned that like he didn't need to be as quick in the first two sectors if he could just get him situated into the last sector to pull that time out.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
go
one
ahead.
thing to note about qualifying, in that I think a lot of people skipped over because of the hype, is the fact that the Red Bull engine is tuned down to 80% for qualifying. And I think that's quite terrifying. Max literally said in the interview, he's like, "Yeah, our engine is actually tuned down for qualifying because we like our car is so fast that we actually don't need to use like the full capacity engine."
Yeah,
And then he skimmed over that like really fast and then went back to Lando. But I also want to talk about Max and Lando's relationship because those two are
It's
so
cute.
fun with each other.
It's good. It's good.
Um,
Lando freaking humanized Max because like Max on his own doesn't act like that. Throw Lando in an interview with him and he's dropping memes. He's like,
yeah, it's awesome.
I don't know. It's so much better when he's with his buddy.
I think Lando is just friends with everybody, but when it comes to Max, like those two do a lot of stuff together. Like they do Twitch stuff together. They just hang out together. It's really cool to see. So, uh, but yeah, and like the excitement he had for the just McLaren as a whole, um, both
Yeah.
during both interviews, is like I'm so happy for Lando right now, dude. Like in McLaren, they're doing awesome. So he's like so off of the fact that he just got his sixth pole position in a row, and he's two off of tying Ayrton Senna's record in 1988 of 8 in a row.
yeah,
Claire?
I was talking with my mom and we kind of both agreed that okay, Max is gonna be happy for Lando because he was close to him, but he didn't threaten him exactly. You know what I mean? Like if Lando actually had gotten pole, I think Max would have been super mad. He would not have been acting like that at all. So
It's
like
all
he's friendly
it's
with
all
Lando
hypothetical,
until
so
Lando passes him.
nah. I think I disagree with that. I think that even if Lando had gotten pole, I think, because I read a stat that if Max Verstappen finishes second in all the races for the entire season, he still wins the championship. He knows he's not the
gonna
champion.
win.
Yeah, so I
But
think
I think he doesn't want to be beat.
I can't.
He doesn't want to be
Again,
beat by
I'm kind of with
McLaren.
Jakob. I don't agree with that just because Max is the type of driver who wants competition. He literally says it himself that he's tired of winning like this. It's like boring. It's not going to keep him around forever. It's like he's one of those drivers who's perfectly in between where he doesn't like losing all the time, but he also doesn't like winning all the time. Like he's won two world championships, cool, but he's also so tired of this season already. He's like, I could walk away from these races and be totally okay. I think he would probably be happy for Lando anyways.
yeah, I think any
I'm
driver
with George,
that's
though. I'm with George thinking that Max is just kind of saying this to get more money out of Red Bull.
I mean,
yeah,
he's
but
not gonna get more money out of them.
George is also incredible. Yeah, how much more could he possibly
He's
get
literally,
out of them?
like Red Bull doesn't have to give him anything. He already earns more than every driver on the grid on contract. and he's also contracted
he's
for the
like,
longest time out of any driver.
I think George is also like George is turning out into a very salty person these
He
last couple
is.
of days.
He is.
He's turning very salty. Initially he had me, and now he's like after this race, he's just turned into a
He's
very
just so
salty person.
whiny, dude.
It's not even the whiny. It's like he. I think he found out Lewis was ahead of him, and he was swearing his head off, and like I think he's just like sort of like turning into someone who's. I think he's just the pressure of Lewis beating him is getting to him.
Yeah. When it comes to qualifying, those two are officially tied 5-5 on in their head-to-head, but I think Lewis had 7-3 in the race finishes. Um, but I kind of want to jump onto just the actual race itself. To talk about what people were saying forever, but Red Bull, not much to talk about. Max kind of still driving off into the distance. I mean, he pulled out 8 seconds on Lando in 10 laps, so you can say, yeah, Lando beat him out at the start, but after Max got his tires warmed up after
Yeah,
2 laps, he just kind of did his thing. And then Checo, another great recovery drive, but you can only get so fast. So I just kind of want to go into the next team. McLaren, with their upgrade package, they didn't bring anything new for Lando. They just brought the upgrade from Austria to Silverstone for Oscar. Um, and I think it's interesting because everybody was talking about, is it going to be Ferrari, Mercedes, or Aston Martin that catch up to Red Bull the fastest? And right now it looks like it's McLaren with one upgrade package. So I'm kind of curious, what do you guys think about, like, McLaren's bringing another upgrade at Hungary, which is our next race in 2 weeks. Do you guys think it's going to be more taken out of Red Bull, or is it just like, something specific for Hungary?
It's hard to say. I feel like we put a lot on these upgrades for we have for at least Mercedes and Ferrari and Aston Martin. We have in the past couple weeks, and then it just doesn't pan out. Like it looks good for one race, and then you go somewhere else, and it just isn't working as well. So I don't know. I want to see McLaren build on whatever they've been doing to get the car to be faster, but I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to bring something that's specific to Hungary.
Yep. Yeah, could be thoughts on McLaren as well.
I don't know if it'll take a chunk out of Red Bull. I think it's more like it's more to improve their car over all the circuits, I would assume, because they're good in the high speed corners. I think Lando had like lesser downforce on his car so that he could go on, so that he was faster in the straights, and they're good in like the high speed corners. They're but like the low speed corners is where they're suffering quite a bit. I think Lando described his own drivable car in the low speed corners. So I think it's more specific for Budapest. I think I don't know if you can just say they've leapt McLaren, Mercedes, and no, they've leapt Ferrari, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. I think the race was incredible. I think this race was incredibly circumstantial for the car. It suited their car really well, so you give them credit. I'd say they're in the fight. I mean, the grid is constantly shifting like every race, so they're in the fight with like Alpine and Aston. I think because Aston certainly seemed like they've dropped away a little bit. So Ferrari. But I don't know if you can. Let's see how they perform in the next couple races. Then you can talk about whether they're actually contending for P2.
Yeah, Claire.
Yeah, I mean, I love McLaren more than most people. Okay, but they only have 59 points.
Yes.
And even Ferrari has 157. So
yes,
they're pretty far back.
Yes.
We'll be happy if they get P5 and they keep P5. I will be over the moon if they get P4.
If you think about it from
I don't think they're going to get P2.
If you think about it from this perspective, McLaren scored, what was it? You get 18 points for second place, and I think you get 15 for third, 12 for fourth. So they scored 30 points today. They literally more than doubled their points tally in one day, where Ferrari scored 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not beyond the realm of possibility for McLaren to catch up to Ferrari and Aston. I'd say they're probably in more of a P3 fight. Will they catch
Guys,
Mercedes?
I'm so happy with this news.
I don't know.
I really want this to happen.
Of course.
Can we just... I want this to happen so bad.
It's not happening.
But
please.
let's bounce to Mercedes. Mercedes started off 6 and 7, ended out 3 and 5. So obviously moves upwards. But they did also bring an upgrade that didn't show much. So I'm kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are on Mercedes right now, and like, what do you think the upgrade package actually was? A lot of teams, of course, brought things that were particular for Silverstone, but I don't think I got around to getting to anything that was specific to Mercedes. So how do you guys feel about their performance today? And then moving forward, do you guys think they'll be able to retain these types of 3-5 or maybe even 2-4, 2-3 finishes?
Yeah, definitely. I think their strategy ended up working better than Ferrari. Like for a while, I thought, Ferrari finally got like strategy right. They called him in early, and then it just didn't pan out again. It's this the damn Ferrari strategists that are like come in like way too early, and Carlos is like, "I'll do what you guys want, whatever you guys want," and I'm like, "Oh, again." Yeah, so I don't know.
So I'm
I think
kind of curious.
Mercedes have Ferrari,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Um, so Mercedes also brought Silverstone specific upgrades for this weekend. Um, and it feels like watching them race today, it wasn't exactly the most fun thing on the planet just because they
Yeah,
still
they're
severely
still with
lack in
it.
straight line speed. Like they couldn't do much there. Their high speed cornering wasn't great. When you looked at any replays of Cops or Stowe, they didn't make either of those corners without breaking through them, which normally you don't see anybody breaking through Cops because it's just a flat out corner. Um, Same with Abby. Most of the time, people lift a little bit, but the Mercedes were actually like hitting the brakes. So I'm kind of curious. Do you guys think it's just a problem of setup, or do you guys think like right? I mean, it'd be awkward if it was a problem of setup, just because that's like their most notorious track. So do you guys think it's a problem of upgrade, or do you think it's a problem with the drivers?
I mean, it's got to be the car and the upgrade. It's not the driver. Jakob, do you have thoughts?
I think it's a probably a car problem just because they're still lacking in certain areas compared to Red Bull. Um, Over the whole of this weekend, they executed a pretty decent recovery weekend from where they qualified. Um, although maybe not on pure pace for P2, circumstances dictated they got it. So I think overall, like they're gonna have to worry about at certain tracks they're gonna be slower than Red Bull and Ferrari and Aston. But I think Aston, for some reason, in 2 races in a row, they look like they've taken a step back in development.
Yep.
So yeah, I think they'll get there in the end. I think they're gonna switch to 2024 at some point, but they'll get there at some point.
Yeah. One thing I'm curious about is you talked about how Aston Martin like they backstepped for 2 weekends in a row, but they also have brought apparent upgrades for the last 2 weekends in a row. They're minor ones, but it feels like they're downgrades. So, first, how do you guys feel about Lance Stroll's driving today? Because he forced Pierre Gasly out of the race. He is just like he couldn't fight against anybody today. So, how do you guys feel about Lance today? Even Fernando wasn't really able to fight very much. So, I mean, what's going
I,
on with their performance as a whole?
I mean, I think the car is not holding up to everyone else's upgrades,
Hmm.
and Lance just couldn't cope with that. He was trying really hard to stay in the points, get into the points.
Yep.
He couldn't compete with the Alpines. I really think that it would have been avoidable, the situation with Pierre. So
Hmm.
it was sad that he had to retire because of suspension, because he went off. But
Yep. Yeah, could be your
that's
thoughts.
just Lance Stroll being Lance Stroll.
I think Lance Stroll. I mean, everyone knows how I rate him. It's not like I don't rate him very highly. And the incident with Pierre, he's got a history of a little bit of dirty driving. Now, whether you call that dirty driving or not is a different issue. He could have let Pierre gone through and then pulled out and then came back on the track, but he chose to come onto the track and he knew exactly what was going to happen when he jumped over those curbs. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Um, Aston Martin as a whole seem to have taken a step back, but we'll see how the rest of the races continue with them.
Yep.
Yeah, Fernando wasn't close to
Yeah, he felt like he
challenging
was just
anyone
falling
really.
backwards the whole time, like just
Yeah.
defending for his life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
kind of unfortunate situation for them, but Ferrari went from being qualifying in fourth and fifth to ending the race in ninth and 10th. So it's tough to call it just because it could be a problem of driver pace. But I also feel like Ferrari's starting to run into an issue that they didn't have before of a lack of downforce that's killing their tires. Um, Back
Mm.
last year, they had a car where it was fantastic in cornering, had plenty of downforce both in the rear and the front. Obviously, they're lacking in straight line speed. Everybody appears to be lacking in straight line speed. That isn't Red Bull, Williams, or Alpine. But it feels like with the change in concept, they kind of ruined that, and they swapped tires. I think the second fastest people to swap tires in the race when everybody else waited on medium tires until a safety car came out. So is it a problem of car upgrade, driver issues, or just Ferrari's organization?
Well, so do you think that they had really high jag and that's why they got called in, or do you think they were thinking that the two stop was going to be faster?
It's
You think
tough.
it's because of the high dag?
Yeah,
I don't know.
because they were lacking on pace severely. Like after 20 laps, they were, I think, the third or fourth slowest team on those medium tires. And they were slower on the
Wow.
medium tires by lap 20 than George Russell was on 20 laps used soft tires, which should
Yeah,
not be
Mm-hmm.
the case.
Yeah, that's for
I
sure.
think Ferrari certainly sacrificed something to give up them to get into that new concept, whether that's taking care of tires or their straight line speed. They've given up something that's affecting their tires. But I think Ferrari also, along with that, they now I think on whether they recognize it or not, they have a driver issue now where Carlos Sainz isn't as compliant as he used to be.
Yep.
He's become more sort of um, he's become more sort of assertive with his engineers and with Charles because he's sick of preferential treatment, and I think that went under the radar this weekend was the qualifying incident that they had and all the stuff that they were dealing with. So
Yep.
I think um, it it doesn't benefit them to have these driver issues. They're going to have it when they're both pretty decent drivers. Now, whether you who you think of Alonso is a different question altogether. But Carlos is having an underrated season compared to Charles,
Mm,
and so I think they have both a car and a driver issue
yep.
as of this weekend at
Um,
least.
I think it's kind of easy to sympathize with Carlos because Charles is receiving preferential treatment in Ferrari, even when Fred Vasseur said he wouldn't. Um, and I mean, there's no reason Charles should receive preferential treatment because Carlos has more points this season. He's been by and far more consistent. When the upgrade package came in, he was the one who actually understood it and was able to extract more out of it. And I mean, just on stats alone, he's been in the points more than Charles this season. Charles in
Yeah.
Spain couldn't make his way back from P19, which in that Ferrari should have been able to carve at least a P10. He didn't even make it to the points. So, uh, I could see where Carlos is coming from. There, like at some point, you can't just sit there and like let the team walk over you while you're clearly doing better than your teammate. Um, but Ferrari is going to be Ferrari, and they're going to suck like they are. Let's talk about Alpine real quick,
Yeah.
because there's not much to talk about them, but
Poor
both their cars
Alpine.
retired.
Wah, wah, wah.
Uh, Esteban Ocon had to retire with hydraulics issues, I think 5 laps into the race, but he made it back into the
Mhm.
pit, so no flags were called out. And I mean, the collision with Pierre Gasly, I think that's entirely a racing incident. I know a lot of people want to blame it on Lance, and he did get a time penalty for it, but most of the time, cars the
Got a penalty for it.
the
So.
suspensions shouldn't break from something like that. And Alpine is notorious for having a much lighter car and lighter pieces than most other people. And theoretically speaking, you can actually just blame this on the fragility of the Alpine car because they have a floppy rear wing that
Interesting.
everybody makes fun of.
Yeah.
They have a super slim
I
car.
saw Gasly's. It looked like it was doing it too.
Yeah,
Not as bad as
not as
Bun's.
bad as Canada now. It's still there. Um,
No.
but yeah, it's like the car is just super fragile, and at some point you have to wonder like, is this an issue of making your car too easily destroyable? Um,
Mhm.
Lance's car was totally fine after that. It
It's a
also feel
tank.
yeah, it also feels like the Aston Martin car is a tank. Like they've hit people with their front wings, and that thing stood the test of time. So,
Yeah.
um,
Do you think that Haas is also like their front wing is a little bit too breakable or no?
yeah, I mean, well, front wings are very light structures in general, but I also think about it's about where you're hitting them. When Aston Martin happened to run
Mm,
into things with them, they hit it dead on, not with the edge of the wing, and so there's a nose
okay.
structure that is made to protect the drivers that also protects the front wing there. Whereas, like if somebody runs over the edge of your front wing, it's gonna snap it. Um,
Yeah,
but
that
yeah,
makes sense. Because
so
I
Alpine,
think I saw that
yeah,
Nico Hulkenberg got his end plate, end wing, whatever,
yep,
on the front when he was overtaken by Checo.
yeah. The edge of his wing got tapped, or yeah, the edge of the wing got tapped, and it started flopping around. Um, Next team
I
I
think
want
it
to talk
flew
about
off.
is the next team actually in the constructors in seventh place,
Yeah.
Williams.
Oh my
um,
god, they're in seventh place.
yes, they are in seventh place. It is a miracle. We are officially
Oh, they're
tied.
tied
Yeah,
7.
we're tied for seventh,
Yeah.
but technically we have it over position and performance this season. So, super happy there. FP1, 2, and 3 were all really strange because we were showing way more pace than probably what was real. But it was still a
Hmm.
good sign. We brought a new upgrade package again for um, Alex this race. We brought Logan his fully upgraded car. He didn't get the new parts that Alex got today, but um, still good to see. I mean, we're clearly still pretty far back, and I mean, the battle for seventh place is between 4 teams, and none of them are going to challenge for sixth. That's entirely between Alpine. Actually, that might as well just be Alpine at this point. But it's nice to see us being able to step out from last place. And so Alex again putting up barnstorming performance. Logan Sargent with his highest placement of the season at 11th. So hopefully you'll be able to see more out of him in the upcoming races. But Hungary is going to be a hard one just because there are an abundance of medium speed corners. And that is not something that Williams does well at. A team that does do well at those is McLaren. McLaren through turns 15 or 14, 15, 16, through Stowe, through turns 6 and 7. I think I couldn't remember the
So
names
you're
of them.
saying that
McLaren
Hungary
have
is
a
going to be a good race for me
yeah,
as
it'll
well?
probably be a really good race for them. Yeah, and
Hey,
that's
let's
the
get
halfway
Max
mark of the season.
booted.
That's the halfway
And
mark of the season too. So hopefully we can end off the first half of the season on a really good note. Um, but moving
Isn't
backward,
uh,
sorry, go ahead.
I thought it was halfway point of the season.
Sorry.
hmm?
Isn't it Belgium? Isn't it Hungary, then Spa, and then
It could be, yeah. I
where?
think I think you're right. Um, Spa's gonna be a snooze
Eric, let me
fest.
look it up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, Spa's always in Spa.
Well, hopefully,
Well, it's just going to be just
hopefully
because
nothing
there's
happens.
way too long of a straight, and that's just way too much time to
Yeah.
give
Okay,
Max.
so what happened is, yeah, we're going to Hungary and then Spa, Belgium.
And then we have a month break.
Um, yeah, wait, Belgium is Spa, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then yeah, then summer break,
Yep. And then
Yeah.
a
Singapore.
month, and then the Netherlands,
Yes.
and then Monza,
Um.
Singapore, Japan, Qatar,
Okay.
USA.
But yeah, moving backwards. Haas. It's so hard to watch Haas. Like we had such high expectations. They're a team that's supposed to be being able to operate the budget cap, and watching them is like it's like watching a show that starts off really really good, and then by the start of the second episode it's the worst thing you've ever seen. Their qualifying is awesome. That's that first episode. That's that great feeling. Start of the second episode, you have no clue what's going on because they're backpedaling the entire race. K Mag's engine set on fire. Nico Hulkenberg was up. I think he qualified in 12th or 11th or something like that. I think he ended out the race in 15th. It's just hard to watch. Their tire deg is insane. They have no downforce. They have no straight line speed. They have no cornering potential. It's like what? And they've apparently brought upgrades to 3 different races this season. So you have to wonder what's the point, right? Gunter Steiner's got to be fuming right now because he got eighth place last year and he doesn't want eighth place again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you guys see the potential of somebody else going into those Haas seats at the end of this year, and it'll be known as Alfa Romeo next year?
Oh, Gunter Steiner's already done it before. He got rid of K-Mag and Roman Grosjean and just wiped the slate clean through 2 rookies in there. So I
You
don't
gotta
think he's
also
going to do
think
that
that was
again.
for money's sake because Nikita Mazepin
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Mick Schumacher brought money in, but
I
they don't
mean,
need the money.
so
They just
with
want a driver now.
Alfa Romeo, there might be some influence there that sees one of the drivers go at least. I'm not sure if they'll do 2, but
Jakob, your thoughts?
whoever's lower with points.
I mean, even if he does find one of his drivers, who does he bring in? Who did? Share another key that he has to deal with crashes and stuff, or Daniel.
True.
The
He's
problem,
over
like,
rookies.
who does he bring in, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think whether they get if they don't get the act together at some point, Gene Haas will probably get bored of it.
Yeah.
Say, he'll probably put it up for sale, and that could be the entry for Porsche,
That'd be
Andretti.
nice.
Even they buy out the team, they already have the facilities. So
Yeah.
Yeah, Gene Haas is bleeding money with this F1 team. So
Yeah,
at a certain
bad.
point, if he doesn't get results, it's like, yeah, you have a great company, you make a lot of money, but is this a smart business decision anymore? Probably not.
He just needs. It's unfortunate, but like also I think Haas are so stuck with the team members that they have. They haven't changed team members in ages. And at some point, you have to look at your team and be like, obviously, these upgrades aren't working. Obviously, we're not taking steps in the right direction. I need to fire somebody and not just my drivers. And
Yeah.
so, like, it's surprising that we haven't seen that change happen yet. And quite frankly, they need it. So, if you have a team that was last place last year and they don't even have a technical director that's active or an aerodynamics officer that's active, and you're losing to them while you have a supposed technical director and aerodynamic specialists on your car, something's wrong. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of they just need a just total revamp. They're probably gonna have to pull a Williams, and it's not even
Okay.
worth it for them.
Okay. Let's just say something.
Yeah.
Williams is beating them,
Yes.
but like barely.
Yeah, but there's also an upward trend in Williams, whereas Haas is. It's not even just their races that are just going backwards. It's just them as a team.
Okay, we got half a year to see what happens.
Yeah. Moving on, Alfa Romeo. I mean, what is there to say about them? Both their drivers
Why aren't they
finished the
fueling
race.
Valtteri's car? Like, what is going on there?
Yeah.
With qualifying, he got DQ'd. Joe was in
It's happened before.
15th.
It's not uncommon. It happened to Seb last 2021 in Hungary, I think. So
It's just like,
I mean,
what is that team?
They're grasping
I
at
think the
straws,
Audi-
trying to get extra pace.
I think the Audi project is what they're waiting for. I don't think anyone. Alfa Romeo is leaving. I don't think they have. I just don't think they're motivated as of right now. I think they're waiting for that Audi money.
Also, I didn't know, but apparently they brought an upgrade in Canada. And like nobody said
Did it
anything.
help?
Yeah. Nobody knew about this. And then I was looking
Was
at
it small?
no, it was a massive upgrade package. Like they changed a bunch of parts to the
Well,
car.
it must have been listed with the rest of them.
It was listed. It's just nobody like paid attention to it because they're like everybody gets excited when they see a McLaren upgrade or a Mercedes upgrade or an Aston Martin upgrade, and then they skip over. Alfa Romeo feels like the most invisible team on the grid.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, last team they took the last two finishing position in AlphaTauri. It's not looking hot. Yuki has started
Nick
to
DeVries
tail
is
off.
gonna be gone.
Yeah, Nick DeVries. I don't see him he'll make it past the summer break. It's like a 50-50 there, but he's not making it past the end of the season.
Yeah. Did you see? I saw on TikTok that Helmut Marko went on an interview and was like, "Oh yeah, the only thing me and Christian argue about is this recent driver. We disagreed about that." And who was it? Oh, it was Nick DeVries. and oh yeah, Horner was right. And Oh no. So I
Yeah.
don't think
He's not
Nick is
happy.
like out the door. He's disappointed them. It's so bad.
Yeah, but I mean, race weekend as a whole was pretty good. All right, guys, that's all we have for you today. If you stayed to the end of the episode, let me know what you think about the McLaren upgrades, and let me know who you think is going to do well in Hungary next week, or sorry, 2 weeks. But we do have a cool episode planned for you guys next week, so stay tuned for that. For those of you on YouTube, drop a like, subscribe, whatever, and we'll see you guys next week. Claire, go ahead and do your thing.
And it's lights out, and away we go.